Hey everybody, it's Unlock the Middle, 7 p.m. It's time to continue and finish your PD for this weekend. Josh Toad, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy, here with Dean Packard, and we'll banter back and forth a little bit. But you know what? Today is a great day. We're still getting our PD on. It started all the way from the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, create and educate, Shika and Tammy. We've been guests before. Principal Cafele, hopefully soon to be here at Unlock the
Love to get
Middle,
them on.
right? And
Yep.
Coach Shawn Hurt tonight. But you know what? It's about preparing not only to close off the fourth quarter with 21-22, but now all of us are preparing for 22-23. So these are the ideas that we will share together. So please let us know where you're coming from. We're on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Please make sure you share this, and you're the most important part of the show because your ideas is what we might need in Texas. So you're in Iowa, you're in South Dakota. Let us know where you're coming from, but also some ideas from the conversations we're carrying. So remember, Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, Florida, and all the way in the middle. You are a valuable tool to our success in Texas. So let us know your 2 cents, and you know what? Let's take the show away. Go, Dean. What do you think?
Hey, Josh, great job as usual. You know what? I love as you try to expand our capacity throughout the United States. And you want to know something with this type of tool, it makes it very simple to do so. I mean, we're very fortunate tonight, and not only tonight, but every Sunday night where we can connect with people from around the country who are just pioneers and rock stars in what they do. And what they try to do is they try to make people better. They try to provide opportunities and pathways for individuals. And as a sitting principal, we do that every single day. So I know tonight we're not going to disappoint bringing in Coach Hurt. He's got a great pedigree background, inner city Detroit. You think about that in the public education system, turning it around and now taking his show on the road. Josh, and I'm really excited. Again, I'm Dean Packard, principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. 90 degrees today, a little bit of Texas sunshine on us. Grass is growing, flowers are popping, Josh.
We got the cold weather. We got cloudy days, 67 degrees. So I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of like a warm. That's nothing for you all.
Hey, Mother Nature maybe is throwing a curveball at all of us. So, hey, listen, I'm going to bring Shawn in, okay? Now, I'm going to have you start off with him, just a little bit of background knowledge. And Shawn, welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us tonight. How are you?
I am fine. I'm fine. It's just a pleasure being on the show. I'm a big fan of the work that you guys are doing. So just thank you. I'm just happy to be here.
Well, we're a big fan of what you do each and every day. We talk about how to build, highways and preparation for others to become better. You stepped right onto that ship, my friend, and you are trying to plant those seeds and casting off and just, laying it out there. So we thank you for that. So, if you would for us, Shawn, give a little background of yourself, where you've been, what your rise to glory has been all about, and take it away for us.
All right. Well, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I've been in education for about. I started off as a second grade teacher, and then from there, no one really believes this, but it happened. I went from a second grade teacher to an assistant principal of a high school, and then from there became a principal at different areas in the Michigan area, and then I'm doing consultant work and just traveling around the world trying to get that good word out to educators about how our kids can learn and how these schools can be some of the best schools in the world.
You know what? And you're doing it. Josh, take it.
Hey, you know what? Prior to the show starting, and I call him Coach Hurt because you know what he does is that he coaches not only individual team members, teachers, but high school principals and staff. And that's what great coaches do is that they do position and they do team. And Coach Hurt has been doing that, and he has a whole pedigree, like Dean has said, about turning around a campus, turning around different schools, and he'll tell you right now what his goal is. His goal, he has a goal for all the schools in the country. If you hear him, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays, for the most part, he has a podcast, part of the Fantastic Four, with Create and Educate and Principal Cafele. Cafe, I see you there. Thank you for joining us tonight. But let us know a little bit, Shawn, about what did you see when you were an administrator in the inner city? What obstacles did you face that made you have this focus and shift in attacking the data?
So growing up in Detroit, and I'm be very honest, team, is that I never saw or heard of the school growing up of successful school that had Black or Latino kids. Never saw it. Every time I heard of Black and Latino kids in Detroit inner city, it was always a narrative of a negative school. And then when I became a teacher, the same narrative still took place. So I told myself when I became an administrator, I wanted to make sure that I was going to have a successful school. But the thing about it is that I could not do it the same way that I saw it, because if I did it, if I did it how I saw it, I was going to get the same results with be failing schools. So what I did was this: I said, okay, my school, we didn't have a lot of resources. So I couldn't just throw away money, or I couldn't make mistakes. So my superintendent said, Mr. Hurt, you got 1 year and we got to increase these test scores. So from there, I told myself, I'm going to look at the data and I'm going to really use the data to drive the instruction, to really make sure my teachers are really looking at the data to drive that instruction in the classroom to help these kids out. And the other part is that by my school being the inner city, by my school having all Black and Latino kids, I talked about how does Black and Latino kids learn? What does that look like? It's a totally different conversation. So I had me, myself, and my staff, we read up on books. We trained our teachers how to set a classroom to be culturally responsive. We made our hallways different. My morning announcements was different. Everything was different than a normal school because I wanted to get these outrageous results. And at the end of that first year, we had some of the highest state and district scores in our state and also in our district.
Shawn, you created a why, it sounds like, okay? You're using the data to drive what you did. There's no doubt about that. Great leaders create a buzz. Great leaders create that reason for coming to school every day, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, whether you're a consumer, whether you're a parent. That is what leaders do. There's no doubt about that. Let's talk about your leadership alone. It's not just data that does it. You got to have a vision. You got to be able to spin it out. And you also have to make sure that it's not too big to scare people away. So, Coach, what did you do differently that led, I don't want to say that just was the only thing that led to success, but helped your team lead to success?
Well, the first thing that I did was that I had to have a vision, and the vision couldn't be too big, but I wanted to make sure that this was something that was attainable and measurable at the end of the year. First thing. So my vision was that I wanted to show growth in all of my students. I wanted my kids to grow from the beginning of September all the way to the end of the year. And then I knew that once I started to grow the kids academically and also socially, so it's all together, academic and socially, then we were going to have more proficient kids. So my whole mantra was that I wanted to have 1.5 years worth of growth in math and reading across the board based on our district assessment. Once I knew that we started to get that going, then it gave my kids more, they believe that they can learn. They believe that they can be successful in the classroom. Not only the kids, but the teachers also and the parents. So now once we started to see success, it was easy for me to kind of push my staff and take them to a whole nother level. A lot of times we don't see success. Our success is based on proficiency, but I said, no, let's start to grow the kids. It's sort of like losing weight. Yes, we might want to lose 80 pounds, but once we lose that first 15 pounds, we start to work out harder. We start to believe that in what we're doing. And then now we lose the next 10 pounds. So that's kind of how I looked at it as a principal. And then once again, just making sure, see, this is the thing, everybody. When you do the same thing over again, you're going to get the same results. That's insanity. And I always said, it has to be different. It has to look different. Yes, it has to smell different. It has to be different. We have to address the needs of the kids in the classroom and also supporting my teachers.
I'm glad you said that. And Josh, before you go, because I want to peel it back for a second. I've been a leader in a building now for 20 years. I don't look at test scores as my ultimate goal. What I look at is good practices in the classroom. I look at scope and sequence of what you're teaching and how you're teaching it. I look at making kids happy and want to be in school. You know, the most successful leaders are creating that buzz all along. And there's no doubt about it. Now, I've never had the opportunity to be part of a turnaround school. So, I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, where you must have been in your mind as you walked into that and how cool it must have felt as you navigated through with your staff.
Well, I think that the first thing is that when you're working in a turnaround school, low achieving school, you have to understand that all the kids can learn, but we must set the school up in a way that's going to address the needs of the kids. That's the first thing. Second is that now we have to say, okay, we don't have 4 or 5 years or 6 years. We literally got 9 months. So every day, every second of the day, every week, we had to be laser focused on quality instruction that was taking place. Now, did teachers make mistakes? Did we have some bad days? Yes.
Sure.
But we always was able to pivot and correct it. We always was in training mode. We always was in encouraging mode. We use best practices to really teach our students. And that came from me as a principal. That came from my secretary in the office. That came from my custodians. I'm talking about people that might not normally have a direct impact or influence on the students. We talked about everybody, all of the everybody in the building understood this was our mission. And that's how we was able to really you saw the whole climate and culture of the school just shift from something that was negative to something that was positive.
And as you shift along the way, and I understand what you're saying, Coach. Trust me, I really feel what you went through with that. The most important part about being in your position in so many schools from East Coast to West Coast, North to South, is those administrators that are facing this kind of challenge with an F school, a D- school, is to making sure that our team members in the classroom establish a good pedagogy and meeting our kids where they're at. So how were you able to do that to coach your team members in the classroom to make sure they facilitate effective pedagogy for their students?
The first thing that I did was that I first developed a good leadership team. Okay, let's just start with that, because I knew that I cannot teach 500 kids or 600 kids by myself. That's not going to take place. So let me develop a good leadership team. Okay. And then from there, once my leadership team understood my mission and vision, now let's help support my teachers. Now, what does that look like? And then this is something I've been saying for the last 4 years, and hopefully people will listen and will understand it. I told myself I'm going to spend 80% of my time in the classroom every day, not to observe or anything like that. That doesn't say that, but I wanted to be in there just to see that instruction, just to support my teachers, support the kids. So consequently, I'm spending 80% of my time. My assistant principal, everybody, we're pushing into the classroom. So now we understand what they're going through. Now my teachers did not see me as a principal. They saw me as the instructional leader. I'm going to say that again for anybody that's listening. So now we got to go to a whole different level. 80% of my time was spent in the classroom, and my teachers switched from I'm a principal, you're just managing the school, to the instructional leader. So now I'm walking side by side with my teachers. I'm understanding that math curriculum. I'm understanding what they need. I'm looking at my budget now as the principal, and before my teachers tell me what they need, I already know they need manipulatives. I feel what they feel. When Raheem can't get that math assignment, I'm frustrated like those teachers. So now I'm thinking about what can I do? How can I, reach out to the parents and things of that nature. So once I started to do that and my staff did it, everything shift. Different mindset, growth mindset within my school.
What is the biggest thing that you saw sitting in those classes? Were you watching for student engagement? Were you looking at methodology? Were you looking at connectivity? And how did the kids view you sitting in that classroom? Now, listen, I would love to spend 80% of my day in classrooms. I just would. There's just so much noise from above and so much preparation that I can't. We do our walkthroughs, but to be able to say, kudos to you, because that's why we're there. We're there to ensure that kids have solid educators. There's no doubt about it. And, the path of least resistance when no one's in a classroom is to do what someone's comfortable with. And you don't want to keep doing something that's not right forever. So again, going back for a second, how did the kids feel when you were in there?
I think in the beginning it was a kind of a culture shock, because they didn't. they never saw of the principal like in the classroom. So after the first couple of weeks, it was a culture shock.
Sure.
Then from there, it was like, okay, this is what he does. So now consequently, I knew the pulse of what was taking place inside of my school because I wasn't just in my office waiting for kids to come down because they got into fights or whatever it may be. I actually, and then we call it all hands on deck. I'm gonna say this again. It was all hands on deck. So every person that was not a classroom teacher, you spent time in them classrooms. Now, let me tell you how it worked out. Now, when I was going to the classrooms, and I would really go into the classrooms where maybe some of my heavy hitters were at, because I didn't want them. Why have them come down at 9 when I need to be meeting them at 8:15 in the classroom, making sure they're getting started? So teachers loved it because now I'm able to support the teacher with those kids. Yep. And then second, those lessons was becoming more smoother. Third, I was able to see what was lacking. Oh, I have a kid now might be reading 2 or 3, might be 2 or 3 years behind in reading or math and science. Now I'm able to be able to get resources, to be able to get help and support for those kids. Does that make sense?
It does. And interventions.
Yep. So now my tier 2 and my tier 3 is totally different. Yep. We changed the classroom because now we were doing, I noticed, I said, man, 90% of our instruction is whole group instruction. How can you reach the kids when you got different levels of learners inside the classroom? So we went from whole group to now we wanted a lot of differentiated instruction to take place. So how we set the classroom up had to be different. Our technology had to be used different. All those things. So that's what kind of took place. And then once again, it had a direct impact on student achievement.
I'm going to dig a little deeper with that just because inquiring minds want to know here. When you tell a teacher that you are now going to differentiate to meet the needs of all the students in the class, which is, it can be arranged. There's no doubt about it. You got a co-taught classroom. You've got from A to Z, and you got to be able to do it. What was the culture shock of the teachers? Say there was a different principal before you, or they were just left alone. How did they feel? I know you probably gave them tools to be successful, but that is a huge change in and of itself.
So now let's go back to the data. When we started to look at the data first, all 35 of my teachers, they said, man, our data is saying that we have different learners. They knew it, but it was different. So now we started to talk to say, okay, how do we make this more easier for you to instruct these kids? What does that look like? And then we started to read articles about, okay, some people call it flip classrooms, I call it. So if we can be able to differentiate this instruction and set up some type of structure in the classroom, that reading block will be so much easier. The math block will be so much easier. You're not just talking for 90 minutes in front of them. Engagement is going to take place. So once we started to do that, we saw classroom behavior started to get better. So any teacher is going to buy in when they see classroom behavior get better. That makes sense. So now we started to do that, and then more teachers started to do it. So it wasn't everybody. More teachers started to do it. They became more comfortable. And as the principal, I did not mark them down if they made a mistake. I did not care. I just said, let's try it, and then we're going to get better. And then about the middle of the year, that's when we started just to take off, and everything just took off from there.
Love it. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Josh.
As you go into, and I see a lot of your posts on Facebook, make sure you all follow Shawn Hurt on his social media sites, because he'll show you the getting down and dirty, seeing everything in detail. How do you explain to your team members who, obviously you're walking into D- schools, F schools, you're walking into that environment, and you and I know that culture is very hard to, right when you walk in, you're walking into that. Just like William says, that school.
Yeah.
The teachers tell you in a PD, oh, here we go again. He's going to try to give us the magic bullet.
Yep.
You come to the show with data-driven decision, data-driven pedagogy. So how do you get these team members who are in a D- school, in an F school, C- school, to look at the data so that they understand what will create that 1.5 years growth?
I think what I did was that, once again, I took a lot from the plates of my teachers. So that was the first thing I said. We're going to take away these 5 or 6 things that really doesn't make sense. We're just doing it because we've been doing it for 50 years. Why are we doing it? Okay. So once my teachers started to understand, I said, I'm taking away all of this, and we're going to do 3 things, and we're going to do it good. That's all we're going to do. We're going to do 3 things, and we're going to do it good. So once I started to talk to them regarding that, then they knew exactly this was our focus. We didn't focus on 8 or 9 things. It was 3 things. We focused on culturally responsive teaching, using data to drive the instruction, and then we wanted that differentiated instruction that was going to take place. So then from there, I started to now talk to my teachers in a way where it was funny, because I said, know what? I have leaders within my teachers. So I said, know what? I want to start to make you guys teachers. I want to start to promote you within our district, within our school, to become assistant principals, become principals, and things of that nature. So what I started to do, I started to train my teachers and take them to the next level. So now my teachers were buying in because they saw the light at the end of the tunnel. They saw, okay, well, if I do good, if I have high test scores, if I'm coming to work every day, if I'm pumped up, if I'm excited, I see promotion within the building or within the district. So that was the part where I said, what can the teachers get out of all of this? And that was the part that really got the teachers to buy in.
And so let's go a little bit deeper into that. Now that you presented that at the schools that you turned around, what about now when you walk in Massachusetts, in Georgia? How do you present this to where people are not turned off? Obviously, I don't want you to give away everything that you have here before, but I know you do a great job of. You know what? I'm letting you all know. If you look at his Facebook lives on Saturdays, he gives you practically the whole store and kitchen and everything. But you know, just to let you all, Coach, please let everybody know when you do go present at these schools, how can you engage all those team members that have had years of D's and F's? Morale is low to where it will pick them up.
First, I will sit with the principal and their leadership team. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. First thing. Before I talk to the teachers, we're going to get the head right. I call it the head. So like if you're a football coach, basketball coach, or whatever it may be, we can't just go to the players first if the coaches and the offensive, defensive coordinators, they're not on one accord. That's the first thing. Second thing is that principal, what is your vision for the school? Where do you really, really want to see this school like in another 9 months? Okay. So now we set that up. Well, Mr. Hurt, I want to go from an F school to a C school or whatever that is. I want to make sure my I-ready or NWA school, all of those things. Now from there, we're going to put a plan in place to address the needs of the school based on your vision. First thing that they always say, how do we get our teachers to have better classroom management? What does that look like? Okay. So now we got to do some training with the teachers ongoing. How do we, and I'm gonna say this, people, how do we use the data to meet the needs of the students? A lot of times we see data and it's just numbers, but how do we make it come to life? How do we look at the data to say these standards are important standards for my 35 kids in the 5th grade or my 80 kids in the 8th grade or my high school students, and be able to understand that? Third is that, and this is what I say, every kid in the school after a month that they are in there should have some type of goals that they want to accomplish at the end of the school, and then it's measurable. Putting those things in place, now we got this train moving. And then once again, Josh, we have to push into these classrooms as a principal. They're going to follow your lead. So if you're not in those classrooms, if you're not in the hallways, if you're not in that lunchroom, then you're standing in front of your 50 teachers and they say, well, you're always inside of your office. You don't get dirty. There's no way that you're getting dirty with this. So those things, you have to lead by example.
And, I call it proactive versus reactive, and you're hitting right on the top of it. I tell my adjustment counselors, I don't want a reactive counselor. I want a proactive. I want somebody getting out in front. I want teachers that are proactive. So you're allowing for risk. You're allowing for risk taking, but then you're also allowing for that opportunity for empowerment too, to be able to move forward. So great. That's really good stuff. Let's talk about teacher engagement now. That's the other part of this. What does that look like? Because anytime the new sheriff comes into town and wearing the crown as the principal of the building, there's going to be some, there's going to be some, we'll call it that, come in to get to know you kind of thing. You want to create that buzz and you want to create that buy-in. So like I said earlier, so how did you go about making that teacher buy-in so successful in teacher engagement?
I think the teacher engagement comes from ongoing coaching. And I don't expect the teachers to try to master 8 or 9 things. Let's master 2 things and let's do it good. The other thing that and I got this from football. I strictly got, I'm a big sports person, so follow me very closely. When I was my first couple of years as a principal, I would go into the classroom and I would have my notepad at the time or my computer, and I would take notes and I would give feedback to my teachers after school. Well, if I'm in the classroom at 9 o'clock and I'm meeting with Josh at 3 o'clock, hey, that's 8 hours. You done forgot everything you did in the morning. It's totally forgot. So one thing I did do, and it was just happenstance. I said, I'm tired of forgetting it. I said, let me tape one of my good teachers' lesson, because it was a good teacher. I said, let me tape the lesson, and then after school, I put the lesson up on my screen in my office, and my teacher was coaching herself. Blew my mind. So now my teacher is actually coaching herself. She's looking at herself. She's looking at engagement. She's looking at all those things. And then the next day, her lesson was so much better. Aha. So then I said, know what? If I start taping my teachers' lessons with their permission, because we had the environment, then now I don't have to, they can coach themselves. They can look at themselves. So now what happened was this: every year, my teachers will have film of themselves from the beginning, middle, and the end of the years, and they can see themselves getting better.
Good stuff. I love it.
Think about football. If you have a game on Sunday or on Monday, you're watching film, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
How come the teachers can't watch film of themselves? Why can't a man teacher watch film of themselves? And it doesn't have to be bad film or good film, but this is my film, and it's going to help me, because they can see if the kids engage. They can see if they're calling on more boys than girls, or if those DOK questions are level 1 or 2. They can see if that lesson is popping.
Self-evaluative.
Exactly.
Nothing more than that. Think about that. Yeah. Very powerful tool.
Coach, when you have the meeting with the administration and the leads, depending, every campus has its own terminology, but the leadership group, and you ask them, what do you want? Like you stated earlier, what do you want? A year's growth, whatever it might be. How do you start focusing on the needs for professional development, starting with the chair, starting with the administrative team, and then that will be funneled down to all the other team members in the classroom? How do you take the bull by the horns with this?
I think that, once again, I try not to do a whole lot of different professional development. So we will focus on 3 things, and we'll keep on focusing on that, because I want you to be an expert in these 3 things. Once again, data has to be the number 1 thing at any school, because that's what drives us. So now we're gonna learn how to use data to drive the structure. So if we're using iReady, Scantron, NW, whatever that, let's learn about the tools that we're using. Second is that let's focus on culturally responsive teaching. It is totally different teaching if you're teaching kids from the inner city, kids from low poverty, than if I'm teaching kids from the suburbs. That's a totally different animal right there. So if we know that we're teaching this, let's learn more about it. Let's bring in the experts that have written books, that have done it. Let's bring those people in. Why try to reinvent the wheel when there are success stories? And third is that we're not going to wait to the end of the year to measure success. This is where we go. It's called the instructional learning cycle. Every week or every 2 weeks, we're going to be able to see, if I'm teaching geometry, I want to know how many of those 98th graders understand that concept. I'm gonna say this again. How many of those 98th graders understand that concept? And we're going to get the data, and then from there we're going to look at it. And if we got to pivot the next week, we'll pivot with our instruction. See, this is what's taking place. We wait to the end of the year to understand that these kids didn't understand fractions, geometry, and things of that nature. Why do we do that? We could be making adjustments in the beginning of the year and pivot every other week or whatever it may be to address the needs of those students. That's the PD that we need to have all around the world if we are really serious about moving the academic needle and having these kids that's coming from these low poverty areas that have a high academic achievement.
Shawn, when you first did the quick check-ins, the 2-week check-ins, we'll call it, off of action plans, and I love that because I think that keeps the ship sailing in the right direction. What was the aha moment by the teachers? Because that student feedback, you know if kids are getting it or not, but it's very easy to move along in math because there are so many standards to cover. And you know what happens? They get lost, but you're holding them accountable in 2-week windows. Think about that for a second. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
So the aha moment was that, first of all of my teachers was in one room. So now we really had a PLC. We didn't just say it was a PLC. We really had a professional learning community. And the professional learning community was about our kids. Second is that the data was able to allow. So if I have 3 8th grade math teachers, now we're bringing the data. So we would have these discussions. Oh, what did you do last week to have 85% of your kids are show proficiency? Oh my God, this is what you did. Okay, you use this, use that. And so now we're learning from one another. And then from there, think about it. They're going to see these particular standards again on their district test and state test. So if all of our kids failed this particular standard, I never got mad. Let's reteach it the following week and let's have some type of growth. See, a lot of times we don't know if the kids got it or not because we don't got the data. And then how can we give them feedback, or how can we pivot our instruction to address the needs of the kids based on what the data is saying?
You know what, Dean, real quick, let me jump in there. I saw a little video today that Ken Williams put out, and I agree. He said everything that you said, and he just kicked it up a notch in my memory by saying that if we don't effectively share those great strategies, that 85%, it's educational malpractice if we don't share it with each other. If we maintain that silo mentality in regards to keeping the knowledge, the hoarder of knowledge, then that would be a total big problem for the learning community of all our students. Dean, you just threw me for me.
See, Josh, you have said a good point. This what bothers me. We never know how to recreate success. So how do you scale success? So then, once again, the teacher have 85% of her kids or 90% of her kids that show proficiency. What did you do for those kids to show that proficiency, and how can we recreate it the following week? We always talk about the negative stuff, but let's talk about success. What does success look like in the classroom, and how can we scale it? So now we don't have 3 teachers being successful in their ELA lesson. We go from 3 to 17 or 18 because now we're sharing best practices among ourselves, and it's not somebody coming in from the outside, but it's somebody who can say, hey, these same kids that you're working with, I'm working with next door, and my math lesson went good, and I got the data to show it. Let me show you what I did. And it goes back to Dean Packard, is the coaching part. If I have videotape of a good lesson, now I can show my whole staff, all 50 teachers, what a good math lesson look like based on this teacher that's teaching the same kids that you're teaching.
One of the reasons why we started Unlock the Middle, to have these best practices to be able to share out any time during the year. We bring on so many people, there are so many perspectives, and it's just a great PD moment just to ensure they can understand and check back in. Really good stuff right there.
Thank you.
And you know what, Coach, I 100% agree with what you said. You know, it's been my experience in the past that we do mention instructional rounds within your own school. It's very threatening, or recording of lessons is very threatening. But the people that sit in our chair are the ones that need to calm that down by making sure that, number one, like you said, Coach, it's not a gotcha. It's how do we improve each other's pedagogy? Because you know what? Josh does great with your class. Why does he do horrible in biology? Is it a discipline or is it a connection thing with each other? Is it a delivery instruction or is it a lack of connection? You know? So it's one of those things to where I believe that if we in our chair are able to create the right culture, first the climate and then the culture to do that, that will get that 1.5 year growth.
See,
Sean, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
you
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Man,
No.
I'm so pumped up because this is now okay. So now you made a good point, Josh. It starts with the principal. Let's be honest. It starts with the principal. It starts with the principal. Principals. How many principals on here? We have to get out of our office and walk through the hallways, spend time in the classrooms, roll up our sleeves, and get dirty with the work. See, you understand? So now when they see you getting dirty with the work, now teachers are comfortable with you coming in and supporting them. A lot of times, the reason why teachers, and I put a post up there yesterday, the reason why teachers are so uncomfortable because they see that many principals, they don't get dirty with them with the work.
And you're absolutely right, because there's also a fear factor involved in that. So, like I said, the greatest leaders get in there, roll up their sleeves, they're part of it, and they're not they're like you said, they're coaching. That's what they're doing. Well, I'm not your boss. I'm coaching because the final destination is helping kids achieve greatness, whatever that looks like. And that's what all the oars are rowing in the same direction, man. It's a simple process. Sometimes we get in the way and make it very difficult on ourselves. That's the problem. You know, when you start looking at district plans, district improvement plans, strategic action plans that have 19 different things on it, my gosh, three, focus, everybody together. My God, it makes it so much easier to move forward. So, Shawn, how can people get in touch with you? I mean, like if they want to talk to you, Shawn, how can they do it? Where can they find you? What does that look like?
Okay. Well, on Saturdays from 10 to 10:30, I'm always doing a Facebook and Twitter live. I haven't done it the last couple of Saturdays because I've been in training, but I'm always on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Just go ahead and type in Shawn Hurt. It will come up, and I'm always posting information. Also, along with that, you can always go to my my website, Shawn Hurt School Turnaround Specialist, and I have information on that. And then also you can inbox me. A lot of times teachers and principals will say, Mr. Hurt, how can you come to my district? I will just inbox me, and then we will set up a Zoom meeting and we'll talk. And they always ask about the data. We'll talk about data, and I'll be there in your district to help support. And also, if you haven't, and hopefully I can talk about it, if you haven't picked up my book, you can come here and pick up my book, How to Transform Your Inner City Schools and Raise Student Achievement. You can get that from my website. So I'm just here to help. Like I said, my vision is by 2025. So I have 3 more years. I want to be able to transform 25 schools and be able to reach 25,000 students. That's and I'm going to do that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I see that.
And I'm just thinking, because I'm loving your energy. I'm loving your passion. I'm loving your direction. You know, transforming inner city schools. I can only bet that you have created those systems. Those systems in place will work in any school. Any school. Doesn't have to be in the city. Okay. Because you know what? I can see that in you. Okay. What you're doing is you're setting foundations. And those systems will make any school become better. Am I correct with that assumption?
Yes, you are correct. So it doesn't have to be inner city. It could be suburban. It could be rural, whatever it is. I'm working with about 9 schools as we speak. And the thing that I enjoy the most is when principals call me. They've been calling me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast, but within the last 3 weeks, I've had 3 principals have called me and said, Mr. Hurt, my data is in. Look at it. And I have actually seen their scores double, triple. I got a school in Georgia. I was down there a couple of weeks ago. The principal was in her office shouting for joy because her state math and reading scores tripled from the previous year. That's the joy I get right there. Her scores triple. Now, it's not about triple scores, but now it's about these kids are learning. Because a lot of times we can say, oh, wow, last year it was 15%. Now I got 35% of these kids at reading level. Now we got these kids moving. So now these kids have a better chance to go to high school, better chance to go to college, better chance to provide for their families and things of that nature. So that's the joy that I'm getting when principals are calling, saying, and also teachers. I'm doing one-on-one coaching with teachers. They're calling me and saying, my iReady scores, I have some of the highest scores in my district. That's why I'm doing the work I'm doing.
Great teachers, high quality instructional materials, great pedagogy when it comes to methodology of delivering instruction to kids, not being afraid to do something different and making kids feel like they own their learning. What a concept. Teachers becoming facilitators, teachers becoming coaches, Shawn.
Yes.
No longer are you just standing in front of the class and regurgitating, standards and information and from the book. You are now coaching your kids to learn. That's a whole change. That's a change.
Yeah. And then from there, I'm telling principals, this is the other part, and I didn't talk about it. If you're not producing other principals within your school, something is wrong.
Yeah,
now,
good point.
Now, if you're a leader, you should be producing other leaders. And I'm gonna brag about this. This is the only thing I'm gonna brag about. Within the last 8 years as a principal of my school, I have had 4 of my teachers become principals, and 2 of my teachers have became assistant principals, and 1 have became a coach. Because it's not about me, it's about how can I scale the work and get because there's a lot of good teachers, and even if the teacher don't believe it, as a principal, as a leader, if I see something in you that you can be a future principal, I'm gonna let you know. Because when I started, I didn't know I was going to be a principal. I did not know I was going to be doing this. But my principal saw something in me as a 21-year-old educator. I'm 21 years old at the time. He pulled me in the office and said, young man, you're going to be a principal someday. I thought he was lying because he just wanted me to stick around. He wanted me to feel good. But he saw something in me, and now it goes back to everybody on this podcast, everybody talking. It's time for us to start to create more principals within our building, more teachers, more coaches, whatever that is. So now we can be able to scale the work. And hopefully I'm not going off tangent, but I just had to get that out. I had to get it out.
I love it.
Hey, Coach, just 2 things right here in closing. We're towards the end. A lot of people that sit in our chairs look to take the next step. And I heard that in different podcasts where they want to take your route of consulting, of speaking, so on and so forth. So can you talk about what your thought process, your thinking was, and how you went from being a high school principal, turning around that school, to what you're doing right now? Because there are a lot of people on the call that look for that. You know that. You and I know that. And so, and can you also talk about what your ideas are in your book?
Okay. So just to answer your first question is that I was happy with success as a principal at my school. But when I left out of my school, I was angry because I knew that there were millions of schools all across the world that maybe could be better, but they didn't have the best practices. Let me just say this. So I was still upset because I'm like, okay, yeah, my 300 kids are learning, but what about the millions of other kids that might not be getting quality education? So I said, how can I scale the work? How can I really reach more people? And to be honest with you, I was blessed, and I'm gonna really take 2 minutes of this. I was blessed. Principal Kafele came to my school. Our superintendent brought him to my school, and he came to my school, and his exact words was, "Mr. Hurt, your school is good. I'm going to the high school because that's where they have some issues at." I brought him to my office. I said, "Principal Kafele, I want to get this work. I want to do this work. How can I do the work?" He was already a consultant, so he sat down with me for 7 hours over dinner, and he knows that this is the truth. And he gave me the blueprint to be a consultant. And he always told me, he said, "What is your passion? And just drive your passion." And he gave me some other things. So that's where it kind of started off at. I saw somebody, he took time out of his busy schedule to talk to me about it, and the rest is history.
I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. And we're glad that we see Principal Caffelli with us tonight.
Yeah.
He's here, and obviously he's probably smiling right now, knowing that one of his proteges is lighting it up and doing all those things right. So that's really good stuff. So again, as we come full circle here tonight, and, Shawn, where do you see yourself now? We'll say a couple of years down the road. What's on your what's out in front of you here? What are you going to look to do besides continue to try to get those 25 schools a year? I mean, there's got to be bigger and better things that you're looking for too.
Well, I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm really looking to first. I want to make sure by 2025 I got those 25 schools meeting their goals, 25,000 students. The other part is that I want to start to take principals or people who would like to do this consulting work and really sit down with them and talk to them about how to do it and how to do it the right way. That's my biggest thing. I see a lot of people out there, they have so much talent, so big of a skill set. I want to really help them to try to go to that next level. If it's writing a book, if it's speaking at conferences, whatever that is, how can I help you? Free of charge. I don't want to charge a penny, because once again, Principal Caffelli didn't charge me a penny. So if he didn't charge me a penny, why should I charge anybody a penny? Time is time. And that's what I want. And then I just want to let's use best practices. Let's scale this work so all of these schools can be able to have high academic achievement. So that's what I want.
Definition of servant leader. That's all I'm going to say. You got it. Good, great stuff.
Oh, Coach, awesome job tonight. Shawn Hurt was on fire. Love it, Coach. We appreciate you dropping all that knowledge on for free again, everybody. That's the whole point of Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Lives, is that we become stronger together. We'd like to thank tonight Coach Shawn Hurt for doing such a fabulous job. You have his contact information. Pick up his book. You know what? It's time to plan for 22-23. 22-23. So it's crucial that if you have that, those scores are coming in already. They already came in Texas.
Yeah.
If you need any help, you know what? Shawn Hurt is better to be proactive than reactive come retesters in December. So you know what? Hey, Dean, Shawn, we had a great time. And you know what? This Thursday, we can't go on without mentioning the Red Zone. The Red Zone, we have 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're looking for teachers this Thursday. Dean Packard will be putting out a form. First come, first serve. We want to hear.
First four, any state, doesn't matter. I don't care what you teach. It does not matter. We just want to hear about your journey. So that'll be going out sometime later on tonight. And I just want to echo what Josh said, Coach Hurt. Thank you very much, man. I'm leaving inspired. I've been in administration for 20 years. I'm leaving with my head spinning a little bit saying, I like it. I like it. Because we're all about growth, no matter what it is. Going from good to great. You never settle. Kids deserve the best version of us every single day. And if we look at it that way, guess what? We never fail. We just never, ever, ever fail. So thank you so much. I'll tell you what, stay on if you could. Everybody out there, we hope you have a great week. And more importantly, keep serving those kids, because that's what we're all about each and every day. I want to thank you all. Have a great week, everybody.